Welcome to Mind Over Matter, the podcast where we challenge the old rules of success and explore what it really takes to create a career and a life that aligns with who we truly are. Today, I'm joined by Doc Shannon D. Smith, a career and talent development strategist and the creator of the Alignment and Thrive method. She has helped countless professionals break free from career stagnation, overcome burnout, and realign their work with their true strengths and passions. We live in a world that tells us that hard work leads to success. But what happens when success leaves you exhausted, unfulfilled, and questioning everything? If you're feeling burned out, stuck, or unsure of what your next career move is, this conversation is for you. So let's dive in. Shannon, so many professionals don't even realize they are burnt out. They just keep pushing forward. What are some early warning signs that someone's career is out of alignment?
Yeah. Well, first I want to say thank you for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here on Mind Over Matter. The one thing that really um stood out to me from when I was experiencing severe burnout was the feeling that something wasn't right. There was just this sense of something being out of place, out of sync. And no matter how much rest I got, whether I slept a full 8 hours or more, there was a constant looming sense of exhaustion and fatigue. And oftentimes, when we are dealing with burnout, we the tail sign is that you're still tired after a full night's rest. That's when there's like a signal that maybe we need to look into something deeper as what's causing the fatigue and the exhaustion.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, how do you help people differentiate between temporary exhaustion and true career misalignment?
Yeah, well, the thing for me in my personal journey, with looking at the emotional burnout, because oftentimes what we have to really become clear on, and this is what I work with clients on, and this is what's um, outlined in the Align and Thrive method book, is that we have to make a distinction between traditional burnout and misalignment burnout. So, with traditional burnout, oftentimes is attributed to workload or, uh, just having a lot of competing priorities. And so that's driving the fatigue, the overwhelm, and the stress. And with, misalignment burnout is going to be a lot different because it's not driven by working too much or working too long. Oftentimes it's driven by working on the wrong things. And so oftentimes when we're dealing with misalignment burnout, it's that deep sinking feeling of, is this all there is? And so it's a drain on our emotional and our energy and our sense of well-being. So one of the ways that I help clients is first becoming aware. Awareness is the first step to career transformation and also curing career burnout. And so the first thing that we do is take a look at the entire situation, our career, what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, and identifying what parts of our work is energizing, is giving us a sense of satisfaction or achievement, and what tasks are draining us and making us feel empty or depleted. And once we have that awareness of the task, and we can get to a closer look at what's driving the burnout, and then we can begin to start the realignment process. And so with the Align and Thrive method, it's a structured approach to guide you through that process. And it starts with awareness, and then goes through leveraging your strengths, getting curious, or what I would call the inquiry stage, where we're starting to get curious about other possibilities, what roles or what tasks would be more aligned with your strengths and with the things that energize you on a day-to-day basis. And then we move to the growth phase, which is taking all that information that you've explored and found in the inquiry stage to start taking action and implementing. And then we nurture by creating that support circle or support system or network that can really help you continue to sustain those changes that you've made. So really it starts by clarifying what matters most, identifying your strengths, identifying what task and what type of work is more energizing so that you can avoid being stuck in that cycle of career burnout and exhaustion, doing work that doesn't align with who you are and what you do best.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. We normalize stress and exhaustion without realizing we might be in the wrong place altogether.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know for me, when I was changing careers from uh, instructional design to becoming a trainer, it was very overwhelming at first because being in a career that you're kind of familiar with, but yet that you're experiencing a lot of stress. I never forget my daughter when she was 10 years old. She told me that I was really like a different person and that I was always angry and always mean. And so it was like a aha moment or kind of snap me out of like the mode that I was in because the job that I was working at the time was extremely stressful and I hadn't realized how much of a toll it had taken on my mental and emotional well-being and how it was impacting my children at the time. And so that's what prompted me to change roles. And so I transition into a trainer role. And it was funny because my daughter came back to me. He's like, "Oh, you're so much better. I'm so glad you quit that job." And it's just really insightful how children pay attention, but also how oftentimes we as adults, we get so caught up in the day to day hustle and grind that we're not present and we're not aware of what's going on inside of us and how what we're doing on a day-to-day basis is impacting our mindset and our well-being mentally and emotionally.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So many of us were taught that success means climbing the corporate ladder, earning a big paycheck, and staying the course. Why is that outdated thinking?
Yeah, the society tells us that. Society tells us to chase the promotions, the bigger salaries, the impressive job titles, and leads us to believe that that would lead us to happiness. But in my perspective, traditional success doesn't account for how aligned you feel with your values and your strengths. And oftentimes, when we don't take that into account, that's where we get stuck in roles that are chasing superficial metrics and not feeding our souls and our minds and the satisfaction that we want in life in general. And I think burnout really comes from that misalignment of your work on a day-to-day basis with what your values are and what your natural strengths and talents are. And that's what's driving that deep exhaustion and which goes beyond just the physical fatigue. And that's something that I experienced firsthand in many roles in earlier in my career. And it's just not really the recipe for a fulfilling and satisfying career. We really need to dig deeper beyond the superficial metrics of the titles and the salaries and the promotions or what have you, and really ask ourselves, is this role aligned with who I am at the core? Is this line of work going to satisfy me over the long term mentally, emotionally, and factor those things in when we decide and define what success is for us.
Mm-hmm. 100%. So, have you worked with people who checked all the success boxes but still felt deeply unfulfilled?
Yes, for sure. One client comes to mind. We had a very long conversation. He reached out to me because he was an attorney and he had been pretty successful. And he was just reaching a point where he was exhausted and he couldn't really put his finger on what that exhaustion was, and so he knew that he needed to take some time off, so he took some time off, and that's when he reached out to me, and we had, a really good discussion, and I helped him distinguish between traditional burnout and the misalignment burnout, and he was amazed because he's like, "I didn't even know that was a thing." And so we had an opportunity to go through his work and discuss what parts of his work were fulfilling and energizing and what parts of his work were kind of draining and depleting his energy. And one of the things that we found out was he liked the mentorship component of his work, such as like taking new associates in and taking them under his wing and mentoring them and helping them learn the ropes of the firm and what it means to be an attorney. And so we realized that the mentorship part of his role and his work was the most fulfilling part, but that was a part of his work that he wasn't doing very much. And then we identified parts of his work that were depleting. And so we came up with a game plan for him to present a kind of like a pitch to his uh, HR department on how to incorporate more of the mentorship with the new associates in his job title. And so he was able to successfully restructure his role, which is something considered job redesign. And that's, a part of my career background. But he was able to do that and really like rework his job description in order to build in more of the fulfilling components that he enjoyed, and so he could, keep his current job and still find fulfillment and satisfaction and kind of move away from the things that was driving his burnout. So I was really happy and proud of him achieving that, and I think that more people um, could benefit from taking that perspective on looking at their work and seeing what can cause them more satisfaction and getting moving away from the things that are causing the you know depleted energy and exhaustion. And I know it's not going to be a perfect solution. We can't all wave a magic wand and have the perfect role, but I think if we can strategically add things that bring more fulfillment and satisfaction and energy to our day, we can then balance it out and avoid burnout as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. It's eye opening. So many people reach their dream job only to realize it doesn't actually make them happy.
Yes, it's so true. It's so true. And I think it's because we're not digging deeper and asking ourselves the harder questions. We're kind of like skimming the surface of, what kind of role can pay me more, or how can I get this promotion, or we're not digging deeper to the questions that really are driving happiness and joy and satisfaction in our lives. Like, what do we want? What matters to us? What are we best at? What brings us a sense of achievement or accomplishment, really tapping into. And one of the things I think that really helps us identify that is if we go back to what we enjoyed as children and what were the things that we did as children that caused us to lose track of time and we could just do it all day long. When we tap into those things, that's what gives us the real clues of what can really bring us the happiness and satisfaction in life and in our careers that we're really yearning for, but really don't know how to get to.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, you have helped professionals reinvent their careers. What's the first step to get unstuck when someone feels trapped in the job that they no longer serves them?
Yeah, I think that, first and foremost is to, you know, bring yourself to a place of awareness and paying attention to what's going on. So if you're feeling burnt out, I would recommend starting small and don't try to solve everything at one time. You're already depleted when you're at that state of burnout and you don't have a lot of energy. So I would just start with identifying one core value that you have realized that you're neglecting in your work life. And once you identify that core value that's being neglected, I would just say take one more small step and try to honor that value intentionally, during your week. And then you can just build up. Maybe the next thing is setting a boundary, perhaps boundaries are something you haven't really reinforced. Setting those boundaries to give you more room in your workday to prioritize your task and slowly, I would say take small actions towards creating that alignment in your career if because not everyone can just quit their job, right? And so if you know that you're going to be at your current role for some time and you can't make a drastic change, then just make those small steps of identifying the core values you have, find ways to honor those core values in your weekdays and every day in your role. And then if you want to take it a step further, maybe you can reach out to someone who inspires you and motivates you and just have those small conversations so that you can move uh incrementally towards alignment and more greater satisfaction and well-being in your work life.
Absolutely. So, what role does self awareness and personal values play in finding fulfilling work?
Yeah, well, identifying our core values, and the core values is essentially the things that we they're like our guiding principles, right? Those are the things that are most important to us, and those are the things that guide our decisions. So for me, autonomy is probably my number one value. And that's basically just wanting to have control over what I do and how I do it. And so it takes time to really identify for each individual what is the main thing that's most important to them. And I recommend the clients to identify at least the top three things that are most important to them because those are the filters that you can use to make career decisions. And if you know that a role or a project or an opportunity, if you're in business, if you know it's going to violate or go against those top three values, then it's easy to make those decisions to walk away from those things. So awareness of core values is really, really important when it comes to, career growth and satisfaction because it helps you make sure that you're in alignment with who you are and what's most important to you, which is going to lead to greater satisfaction.
I love that. Sometimes it's not about making a huge leap, but about reconnecting with what actually matters.
Yes. Yes, for sure. And even in my career, like I didn't always make the big leap. Sometimes I had to make, really small shifts in order to feel like I was on the right path. And then those small shifts led to other small shifts. And so it compounds and it works out for you in the end, as long as you have that consistent um, cadence of making sure that you're calibrating your career with your inner compass, so to speak, of your values and those things that are important to you.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, your Align and Thrive method is designed to help professionals find meaningful and energizing careers. Can you break it down how it works?
Sure. So the align and thrive method is broken down into two phases. So it's the align phase and then the thrive phase. The align phase is really focusing on the awareness, leveraging your strengths, um, implementing, growth strategies for personal growth as well as professional growth. Having that curiosity around potential opportunities once you're more aware of your strengths and your values and your goals. And then once we go through that phase, we transition into the thrive phase, which is where we are tracking your alignment signals, which is those things that are indicators that you are aligning with your values and your strengths and harmonizing your work and your life together so that they're not competing, but they're actually complementing one another integrated with one another. And then we get into making sure that you have steps and systems in place to recalibrate your career as you evolve and as you grow. And then always having a vision for the future because you don't want to stagnate. And so there's a step in there where we walk you through visualization and how can you always keep a look at what's ahead and not stay, get stuck or stay stuck. And then the last is the expansion piece where you want to constantly expand your capacity for more. And more is subjective, right? Everyone has their own version of what more looks like, but just having the framework in place of how do you continue to expand your comfort zone and make it much bigger than what you thought and be able to try new things and take on new opportunities so you can continue to expand your skill set, future proof your career, and find, greater satisfaction as you grow and develop. So that's kind of how it's broken down in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, is there a small shift someone could make today to start aligning their career with their strengths?
Yeah, one thing I would just say is just remembering that alignment is not a one-time event. It's actually a practice. And so one of the things that I would recommend is just consistently checking in with yourself to identify if what you're doing is really in alignment with what is most important to you. So having those daily check-ins is really a huge thing. I'm a huge proponent and supporter of journaling. So I would say the first thing that you can start doing today is journaling and asking yourself, with your current career as it stands today, what about it energizes you, excites you, and what about it depletes you and drains you? And then the next question you want to ask yourself, if you are aware of what your strengths and talents are, is how much of your current role is tapping into those strengths and those talents so that you can identify if this is going to be something that can support your career satisfaction long term. um and one of the things that is the other thing that's really important is, starting small. Of course, I know I said that before, but I just want to really reinforce that starting small is really important. As you said, we can't always make big leaps. So starting small and just becoming aware of your values, understanding what your strengths are, and understanding what's most important to you is huge. And also just know that you don't have to do it alone. Having people around you, tapping into this podcast. I also have a newsletter community. You want to make sure that you surround yourself with people who can encourage you and support you as you move forward towards the career and life that you deserve.
Mm-hmm. That's so empowering. When people realize they do have control over their career path, even when they feel stuck.
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm. So, for someone listening who's feeling overwhelmed by work, expectations, and the pressure to succeed, what's one mindset shift they can adopt right now to start reclaiming their energy?
Yeah, I think the one mindset shift that you can shift towards is I'm a huge supporter of the growth mindset, and that's just basically saying that you have the capacity to change and and learn new things. And when you know that you're stuck and you're stressed and you're overwhelmed, sometimes it's hard to see possibilities. And so I would just encourage you to shift your mindset in from the this is too hard, this is too stressful, I'm always going to be stuck, I'm always going to be in this place, to what if. Just start out with the curiosity of what if I found a role that was more aligned with my strengths and more aligned with the things that I am really, really passionate about or I find most important. So starting out with that curiosity can lead ultimately to the growth mindset, but the one shift today is just, start entertaining and imagining the what if scenarios of, finding a career that brings you more joy and satisfaction and energizes you.
I love that. So, Shannon, this conversation has been a wake up call for so many of us who have been feeling drained by our careers. Your message is clear. We don't have to settle for burnout and frustration. There is another way. And to our listeners, if today's episode resonated with you, I encourage you to connect with Shannon and explore how the Align and Thrive method can help you reclaim your career and your life. Remember, success isn't just about achievement, it's about alignment. You deserve a career that fuels you, not the one that drains you. Until next time, take care and trust that what really meant for you is already on its way.